and I think we're all in communication here with each other. So thank you for joining us this afternoon, and I will call this meeting to order. And I will, as we have been doing in the past, Brian, I'll just kind of go back and forth between you and Dan as for the mover and the seconder.
Okay.
If that works for you. So I have a motion here. A recommendation that the agenda for the July 7th, 2020 Township of Wellington North Recreation Park and Leisure Committee meeting be accepted and passed. All in favor? Oh, I think we just, oh no, there you are, Dan. All right, thanks. Thank you for that. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Milne, do you have any pecuniary interest?
No, sir.
Councillor Yake?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. I have the previous minutes are there as well. Let me get this one. Any questions about the previous minutes from the previous meeting at all?
No, none here.
All right, thank you. Seeing none, Matt, I will pass it over to you for RPL 2020-006 fundraising partnership opportunities.
Yeah, thank you, Chair McCabe. This report is really a follow-up to the March meeting as it relates to sponsorship of seating within the arena. Staff have looked at it and have put forward a recommendation. And the recommendation, we've kind of made it more general that it could apply to minor hockey, but it could also apply to others who use the arena. Just the idea that if they were to do the marketing and the first install, organizations could charge $500 for a sponsorship of arena seating, and the township would receive $200. We put a time frame of 5 years on that sponsorship. I think the intent would be, not to remove it after 5 years, but if it's being vandalized and damaged, or depending on what the situation is, we put a time frame on it. And really that the recommendation is in response to the delegation that we received in March of 2020 at the rec committee meeting. So certainly willing to answer any additional questions related to the report.
Councillor Yaker, Deputy Mayor Milne, do you have any questions for Matt?
Yeah, I do have a question, actually, if I could.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt, I see in your report you're asking the groups to put the money up front for the 15 seats. Is that right? Or 15 seats?
Yeah, I think in the report it says 15. The resolution doesn't speak to a specific number. When we looked at it, actually, the rows, generally speaking, there's not too many entire rows that are still available. But yeah, the recommendation would be for an upfront payment. Certainly staff would be willing to entertain the opposite. But the recommendation was to get that payment up front, and just so we don't lose sight of it, and it's maybe a little easier to administer. But from the organization standpoint, as far as the Ontario minor hockey and things like that, it might be more challenging to have those dollars up front. So we would, yeah, we're willing to entertain options.
So it does say in the resolution, or at least the recommendation, the cost payment is made in advance. And I think you're kind of alluding to it, Matt, there, that you're willing to work with the groups, but if it says in advance in the recommendation, it's going to have to be in advance, or you're not following the recommendation. And I think that might be a little onerous for some of these groups to, for instance, if there is a full row of 15 seats, that's $3,000 they're going to have to put up. It's not like they're going to take the seat and leave town with it. I'd be inclined to let them say, here's your row, you sell these seats here, and when you get the money, cut us a check for $200 and drive on. Just my thoughts.
Go ahead, Matt.
And through you, Chair McCabe. certainly the recommendation is for an advance payment for the seats that they would be soliciting. So if there's a change in that, that would have to be reflected in the resolution.
So there's no, excuse me, number of seats in the recommendation, and say they only sold 8. Would that mean they would only pay for 8 up front? Is this what you're asking, Matt?
I think the idea would be, you know, if you wanted to sell 4 seats, the expectation or the way the resolution is written, the user group would pay $800 to have rights to sell those 4 seats. And then the revenue that they receive as far as the $500 per seat, that would be all theirs. But the way the resolution's written, they would have to pay the $800 upfront, or to Member Milne's point, if it was 15 seats, they would have to come up with $3,000 off the hop. And then they would have those seats. And I guess potentially there's risk in the future that if they can't sell those seats for a long period of time, yeah, we would have to give a refund potentially, or we'd have to reconcile that some other way.
So there's really no, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I'll carry on, Steve, when you're done.
I was just going to say, so there's no real hard, fast number on the 15.
I think 15 is mentioned in the report as far as that's a typical row, but yeah, I would envision that the user group might, you know, pick 4 seats that they want to try to solicit. And then once they sell those 4 seats, they build on that.
Right.
But certainly 4 seats would be $800 up front to have the rights to market those seats. So yeah, there definitely be, the way the resolution's written, there's definitely upfront costs to the user groups.
Okay. Councillor Yake.
I guess with that payment in advance, it might encourage them to try to sell them, might encourage them to try to work a little harder to sell them. The other thing was, when the seats were originally sold, and I see in here with it says with a firm resale price of $500. When we originally sold the seats, if people bought, I can't remember the exact number, and I'm going to say if they bought 3 or more, there was a discounted rate. Now, is that up to them to apply that discounted rate, or is it, like, you know what I mean? If you bought 1 seat, it was $500. If you bought 1 or 2 seats, it was $500 each. If you bought 3 seats, I think it went to $475. And if you bought 4 or more, it was $450, something like that.
Like a frequency rate.
Yeah, well, the more you bought, the cheap, you know, and it only went down to $450. So if you bought 10, they were still $450. So I'm just wondering, would that be up to them to apply that discount? Or how would that work?
So if I understand you correctly, say they buy 10 or 15 from us, and if I understand you as well, Matt, we're still going to charge them $200, whether they buy 1 or whether they buy a whole row. And then you're asking, is it up to them to discount it if Yake Electric bought all 15 of those chairs from the community group?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm asking. Yeah.
I would say it's probably up to them. I think, like, if they want to make more money, I guess they could, yeah, or not discount. I think we got to stay firm at our $200 a chair, whether it's 1 or 15.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that we adjust. I'm just wondering, like, if somebody asked, right? Somebody said, well, I bought 4 seats the last time, and they were $450 a piece.
Right.
And now I'm buying 4 and they're $500 a piece. I guess we could just leave it up to them.
I think I was just going to say some discussion, like with Anson and with Anson Lewis and Len Rice might be appropriate after this, and let them know that it's up to them. It depends, I guess, on how much money they actually want to fundraise, I guess, through.
Yes, so yeah. I mean, even if they had 15 seats and somebody bought all 15, let's say, for example, if they wanted to discount them to $450, that's up to them.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to make less on the 15 seats, but they're still gonna make, $250 per seat. So, yeah, I think, okay, I don't want to confuse the issue. I think we should just leave it up to them to allow them to do that.
Okay, sounds good. Yes, Brian?
But Dan, if you notice in the resolution, it says that we need to stick with a sale price of $500. It doesn't speak to a discount in there.
No, I know, I see that.
And that was going to be part of my second question was, should we not leave it up to the rec group or the fundraising group, whatever price they want to sell it at? I mean, they're buying it for $200. We're letting them do the legwork. If they want to sell it for $300, that's their business.
Sure, yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. I didn't really want to confuse the issue. I just wanted to bring up the fact that that's the way it was done in the past.
Well, and I don't disagree with that, but the resolution speaks that our sale price must stick at $500.
Right.
They can't buy it for $200 and sell it for $300. They have to sell it for $500, unless I misunderstood, Matt.
So conversely, then they could sell it for $1,000 if Brian wanted to pony up. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so the second part of the third clause in the resolution, which says, and a sale price of $500, the difference, which will be the funds raised to support the community group, Chair, I would probably recommend that be removed, and we basically just establish the $200 seat price is what I'm hearing, and then the balance as far as, yeah, they could sell it for $700 or they could sell it for $225. I think is what I'm hearing is a change that needs to happen to that resolution. And then I also want to say, like, there's no tax receipts involved with any of this. I think that's clear, but just to be clear, there's no tax receipts that are being issued by the township, or I guess what the what the other organizations are doing, that's their business. But from a township standpoint, there's no tax receipts, and from a township standpoint, we're looking for that $200 in revenue. What they're selling it for is up to them, and that's maybe an oversight in terms of what the recommended resolution was, Chair.
So if we sell it for $200, does that mean we have to sell it for less the sales tax, or is it just I don't know how that works. Mike, you might want to chime in on this if you're on the call. How do we just sell it straight for $200 without a tax receipt or taxes paid, or how does that work? And from their end, yeah, if they want to have a tax receipt, I guess that's up to them. That's no business of ours.
I think Mike's on the call. I don't know if he's able to speak.
Sorry, yeah, I just, they let me join to speak. Yeah, just in terms of clarification, like, we're basically selling them the rights to put a name tag on a seat. Like, that's what we're selling. So it's $200. That's it. There's nothing else as it relates to minor hockey around that. But the issue that we tend to run into is people understand that municipalities have options to issue tax receipts, charitable donation receipts more specifically. That won't be the case with this. This is not an active fundraiser. This is, basically the rights to a seat is what people are buying with this $200 now.
And I would suggest it's probably up to that, whatever community group sells it to issue tax receipts if they can or if they want. Like, it's not our business. Is that right?
Yeah, some of them may have that opportunity if they are a registered charity, that they could do that through a sponsorship program, but yeah, the township won't be able to. So yeah, it'll be left in their hands.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, what about the question of sales tax? You had mentioned it there. Mike, did you have something to add about sales tax? Like, do we need to charge sales tax on the $200?
Brian, I haven't researched it specifically. My experience would tell me because it's recreation based that there wouldn't be HST applicable. But yeah, we can clarify that with Adam for sure, but that would be my expectation.
I like your answer.
That sounds good to me as well. So do we, is Karen on the call as well?
as a participant maybe, and maybe she'll be,
So, Mr. Chair, I guess if we wanted, have we moved and seconded this yet?
Yes, but we haven't approved it yet. So I was just going to ask if we had, if we can make an amendment,
Well,
Karen.
if we haven't moved and seconded it, we could just change it on the fly, but if we've moved and seconded it, now we need to make an amendment. But I see the clerk there, she can chime in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now you'll need to get a mover and seconder to amend the motion, and then you pass that amended motion first. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
You jumped in there too fast, Mike. We didn't have it moved and seconded until you said it was. But I'll move the amendment, if you want, to remove the,
Do you second that amendment?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor for that amendment?
So Chair, just before you move too quickly here, let's clarify what the amendment says, because I think there's two things at play.
that's just what I
Two
was,
things at play here. One is
The price,
whether or not we're receiving the $200 upfront or at the time of them selling. That's one issue that was raised. The second issue is removing the clause about a firm sale of $500. So
right, that's what I thought the amendment was for, was just the $500 change. Is there any opposition to the $200 up front? I think, like we've heard here, is if they spend the $200 on 5 chairs, then they're going to probably work a little harder to sell them for whatever price they can get.
fair enough. And I guess I understood, and Matt made it clear there. I understood from reading the motion that they were going to have to buy the whole row. But as Matt indicated, they could buy as little as 2 seats if they wanted and try to sell them and then move to another 2 seats and so on and so forth. So I'm fine with the upfront if they're allowed to buy, 1 or 2 seats at a time.
Okay,
So
thank you.
So unless there's any opposition to that, my amendment would simply be to remove the second clause of the 3rd paragraph, which means that we would remove the stipulation that they must sell them for $500, but we're going to sell them for $200.
Yes, that's what my understanding was as well. Matt, were you going to chime in there?
no, staff understand that they could purchase 2 seats or they could purchase 10 seats.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, but so we're okay then, like if they want to just buy 2, instead of kind of pushing them to buy 10 to 15?
I think you're asking some groups a fair bit there, Dan. Like some groups might not be able to afford that much up front. As one small bite at a time, it might entice more groups to come forward and say, yeah, I'd like a piece of that, and get more groups trying to sell these seats. I don't know.
Does it become a administration nightmare though, by doing 2 at a time?
That's up to Mike.
You know me, I'm always trying to take stuff off Mike's plate.
Yeah.
So I think we should have a number. Again, I don't care if it's I think there should be a certain number in there just to kind of encourage them to push it along if that's what they want. And then it just saves having to come back after they sell 2, and then wanting to buy 2 more or whatever the case may be. And I wouldn't be opposed to having that number at 10.
Have you been out in the sun today, Dan?
No.
So then I have a question, Matt, for you. How many actual seats are available all in all?
Oh, there's lots.
There's about 400, but when staff looked at it, there's not a ton of full rows available. So the rows, there's kind of been, I think the way it's happened in the past is that people buy the seats that they typically sit in, and that wasn't necessarily, starting at the bottom and 15 people per row. It's very sporadic, and there's very few rows that are completely available anymore, if any. So I think leaving the motion open as it relates to a number of seats that the groups I think allows a little bit for scale for community or for the user groups. And yeah, I don't think we have a ton of full rows that would be available.
Okay. Dan, you look like you were going to
Well,
respond.
just going back to the reason, like, I mean, the reason they were sporadic at the time was the fact we didn't want to put, we wanted it to, you know, look like it was spread out throughout the whole seating arrangement. Some people requested certain rows in certain areas, other people didn't care. So it was just left up to us who were administering it to put it on. If somebody requested a row and a seat number, then we put it on there. If not, then we just put it on sporadically all over the place. And that's why there aren't complete rows, because we wanted to make it look like it was, you know, that it was all over the place and it was kind of filling up accordingly, instead of just filling up one section and having none in another section.
Right.
That's why it was done. So anyway, it doesn't matter if we want to sell them 2 at a time. You know, I don't have to administer it. So that's, we'll leave it up to them.
Matt, are you comfortable with just 1 at a time or 2 at a time, or do you have a number, or is it going to be kind of arbitrary how many they start off with?
I think to staff's credit, and specifically the rec team and Mandy and Nick, they've put together a spreadsheet that lays out all the seats in the facility. So if I'm wrong, Mandy, yell, but I think that staff would be able to sell 2 seats pretty easily, given the legwork we've done to put together kind of a map of what our existing seat inventory is.
And that'll be made known to the community members as well. So that's good. That's fantastic. It'd almost be neat to see that map of the layout of the arena, of what seats are available. Just because Brian probably is going to buy 2 or 3 for Southgate. I mean. All right. So what we have on the table is the amendment to remove the $500 from the third paragraph, the second part of that third paragraph. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Mike or Karen, are we clear to vote just on that amendment?
Correct.
Okay. So all in favor to remove that sale price of $500 as a minimum?
Aye.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll remove that. So I have RPL 2020-006 fundraising or partnership opportunities. A recommendation that, I don't know if I have to read it all out, but especially in the third paragraph, and further that committee recommend the established cost per seat of $200. And that's where that third paragraph will end. And then we'll continue on with the fourth and fifth paragraph on that finishes on page 2 of the agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move it.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Brian. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That was some good discussion. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we will move on to ad hoc committee updates, and we are graced by our own Councillor Burke with an update on the aquatics committee and the Mount Forest splash pad. So I will turn it over to the delegation of Councillor Burke.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCabe and Chair of the Recreation Committee. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. This update is just going to be about the splash pad right now, but before I start my update, I just want to thank the recreation team for their efforts in opening this splash pad for this season. I've received a lot of compliments for your efforts from those folks that are enjoying it on days like this. Late in 2019, the Mount Forest splash pad opened with the fundraising group continuing to raise funds for the project. The group actively continued to follow up with local businesses, and also offered bricks for those hard to buy for people at Christmas time. The fundraising gap as of January 2020 was just over 6,700. A meeting of the ad hoc aquatic committee was scheduled for March 31st. A state of emergency hit due to COVID and it was canceled. Just to let you folks know, this meeting in part was going to address the funding gap and a plan to attend a Lions executive meeting to address the agreement made to fund this gap above the original pledge of $50,000. Other agenda items included discussions on signage and the grand opening family fun day and park dedication hosted by the Lions Club, which was supposed to happen in June. With all events canceled in 2020, the intent is to have the family fun day in 2021. Since the splash pad opened on June 19th for the 2020 season, we have received interest from a local business wanting an armor stone, and we are 4 pathway bricks away from having Custom Rock come back to finish off the pathway. We also believe that Custom Rock will be able to assist with the armor stone request. The fundraising group also has reason to believe that a pledge that happened some time ago of $5,000 will be received shortly, which would actually put us slightly over the funding gap. It has also come forward that a family would like to plant a tree in memory of a loved one at the splash pad. So having said that, I'd just like to note that further down in your agenda, there's a landscape plan that will be discussed. And I'm just asking that maybe it be received by the Recreation Committee for information and brought to a future ad hoc aquatics meeting. Reason for that is so that both the Lions Club dedication sign and the fundraising partnership sign may be incorporated into the design, and also the requested tree planting. In connecting with the fundraising group over the last couple of months, just communicating where we're at, it's felt that now is a good time to have a meeting of some type in these crazy times to discuss moving forward on these items. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Deputy Milne or Councillor Yick, do you have any questions for our Councillor Burke? Go ahead,
No,
Dan.
I have no questions. Just congratulations, Sherry, on all the hard work.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah, that was just going to be my comment as well. Councillor Burke and her committee, to get that project completed as far as it has come, see it be open this year. Again, thank you to the recreation staff and everybody that was able to get that done. And, it sounds certainly that the money will come in, and it sounds like, you're well on your way to meeting your goals. So, just again, congratulations. It's a great asset, and I see lots of people using it. So that's good to see too. So, and hopefully it just gets better. So yeah, once again, congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Yick. I suppose we could have probably had the meeting out at the splash pad, given the heat that we're all in right now. No, congratulations on that. I know it's been tough to fundraise that final 6,700 just because of the situation that the whole world finds itself in. But it sounds like you're well on your way to hitting and actually surpassing that gap. So congratulations. And I do want to thank and echo what Councillor Burke and Councillor Yick and Milne had said about the rec staff and their ability to help out and to go ahead. When are you thinking of having your ad hoc committee update?
A meeting, you mean?
Yeah.
So you probably have to work with staff because, as you and Dan both know, my technical abilities are not that great. So we would rely on staff to help set up that meeting. Generally, what I've done in the past is circulated a couple of dates to those folks that are part of the fundraising committee. It would generally be in the evening, and then we go from there. But I think the sort of the intent from talking to some of the fundraising group members was that we'd like to be able to come back and say we have hit our goal. Now we would like staff to engage in conversation with Custom Rock to come back and do the pathway work, and also the armor stone that there's interest in as well.
All right, thank you. You had said that there was a family that wanted to do a planting.
Yes.
Is there any appetite for them to do the cedar bushes instead, or?
In the conversation that I had with them, they really liked the tree that sort of had the plaque for Bill Moody.
Right.
Was what they were looking at. And I know at a fundraising group meeting that we had early on, it was sort of off topic and it was getting us off track of where we needed to be. But there was also some discussion about potentially doing that at a later date, maybe as part of a fundraising project for the pool discussion through the Lions Club, because we know some of those trees have to go eventually, those larger trees. So I think at this time, I mean, I could bring it forward to that particular family and see if they'd be interested.
Oh, I was just curious, Sherry, that's all.
But I think their intent is to actually do like a maple tree or something that would provide some shade.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just curious. Thank you. All right, I have a recommendation here that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee received for information report RPL 2020-008, being a report on the Mount Forest splash pad, and further that the committee recommend the Council of the Township of Wellington North approve the landscaping plan for Mount Forest splash pad as presented in Schedule A. Do I have a mover and a seconder on that, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, Dan. You're in as well as a seconder, Brian?
I will, but I believe, did Sherry not ask that this be received for information?
Oh, yes, I believe you did.
And then
So we'll have to,
and she'd like to see the site plan back to the Aquatics Committee for another go at it regarding an additional tree or something.
right, thanks for catching that. So as it's not moved, I guess we can amend it to show instead of recommending. So the
Well,
second paragraph will have to be, and further that the committee receive information for the township to, I guess.
Well, why not just remove the second clause of the recommendation?
Yep, we can do that as well. I know we had a mover and a seconder for that, but does Karen, again, can we just amend that? It's not been approved or anything yet, or do we have to pull the second paragraph first?
No, just amend it.
Okay, so we will amend that the second paragraph of 2020-008 will be removed. And I don't think I need to reread the recommendation again.
So just to clarify, Sherry, is that what you were looking for?
Yes, just because the dedication sign from the Lions Club is one of those larger signs, like the one that's at the park over there for Bill Moody, like the one that's across from me for Merv Weber. It's a large sign that's going to take up some space that needs to be well thought out for the location. The sponsorship sign, not so much, and really just sort of thinking that that other tree would go over, sort of over where the other tree in memory of is. But the signs in particular are important for the location.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that, Member Milne. All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to the Arthur BMX Skate Park verbal update. So over to you, Mandy.
Thank you, Chair McCabe. For the Arthur BMX Skateboard Park, the committee right now is exploring the...
Sorry, thank you, Sherry.
I'm just waving at Sherry. I'm not trying to distract you.
Bye.
Sorry, thanks for joining us.
Sorry about that. So the Arthur Lyons BMX Skateboard Park, the committee is looking at their chicken barbecues, trying to see if there's a possibility to offer those again under the new restrictions. And they're exploring some other opportunities as well, working with the downtown groups. So that's the update for the Arthur BMX Skateboard Park right now.
All right, did they, now with curbside pickup and stuff like that available at some restaurants, is there any chat about them doing another drive, like a chicken drive or chicken dinner drive or whatever they've done in the past?
Sorry, yeah, through you. So, or to you. Yes, they had discussed the option of doing that. I think it's the number of volunteers that are required, but that drive-through chicken barbecue together that has them trying to work around right now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councillor Yake or Deputy Mayor Milne, do you have any questions regarding the state BMX skateboard park?
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll carry on with you, Mandy, with the Lyons Blacksmith Shop.
Sure, so I'm just going to read a prepared letter from Chair Kate Rowley, the Lyons Blacksmith Shop Committee. So summer update 2020. I truly hope this update finds you all healthy and safe and as sane as anyone can be when the world seems to have changed overnight. I've held off on even venturing down the road of informative updates about ongoing projects because I have no idea what the next few months will bring. I think our job in this strange time is to hold our own at the Lyons shop and step lightly forward when we feel able and safe to do so. Firstly, I must say that I know you all join me in feeling the loss of Ian Turner as a cheerleader for our project and as a heritage and community leader. Ian died on May 11th, and I will remember him as the quintessential high school history teacher, passionate for his subject, dedicated to his students, and an unbridled enthusiasm to always pull the two together. Ian attended our open house last year despite a recent tough stretch of treatment, and he was full of praise and ideas and congratulations. We will miss his support greatly. The Lyons family also notified some of us of the passing of Madeline Lyons Hugan, who celebrated her 94th birthday at the Lyons house in Kenilworth and was the last living member of the Lyons family that grew up in the blacksmith's house. I assured her family that the birthday lunch was a memory that will stay with those of us who could be there and a formative event in the life of our project. So as we look to this unique summer, I thought I would cast out a few ideas that might help us feel we are not losing too much ground. Barry Manser continues to be a wonderful overseer of the property through all season, and I know he has approached some of you already. The suggestions below are only meant to be for those of you who feel ready for solo volunteering, who feel safe and well enough to do so, and who live nearby. 1, the committee has been asked if they have 1 to 2 hours a week to tend to flower beds and prune and maintain shrubs, rake, sweep, etc., to just email a day and time that they like. We will stagger our activities so we do not overlap or share tools. This is hardly as much fun as our Thursday garden group of last year, but it might just keep things looking tended. 2, mowing the lawn is still with the township. Schedules may vary, but I believe they are still willing to help. 3, we will pay attention to all directives and regulations from the township, the county, and the province as we come out of the closures and restrictions. 4, fundraising just became a whole lot harder for all nonprofits across the board. I am drafting the outline of an application for Trillium funding for next year. Barry and Steve Walker are making plans for the new roof, and alongside accessibility and landscaping, Trillium is probably our best bet. I hope Dale Small will have some time to assist us in the fall. I will stay in touch with Adam McNabb regarding the status of our account. We can only do our best. I have promised Darren Jones that I will pursue the change of use for the blacksmith shop. I will speak to an engineer and architect after seeking advice from the County Museum, which reopens on July 13th. 6, there is no change of any large events at the shop this year. but we do have a county grant of $2,000 and a healthy bank account to go towards the restoration of a second forge. I'm hoping Steve Walker will take on the work. Barry has continued to make basic improvements of the building structures and has hired out some roof work which was necessary. Number 7, I will discuss any ideas for online presence promotion or staying in the public eye with Mandy Jones. She's requested an on-site meeting on Monday, July 6th, which is very appreciated. Kate Rowley, Chair.
All right, thank you for that. Deputy Milne or Councillor Yake, do you have any questions for Mandy regarding the verbal update on the lines?
No.
Yep, go ahead.
If I may, just one update from our on-site meeting yesterday. In discussing with Kate, we were looking at the possibility of creating a website presence for the Lions Blacksmith Shop, something that is updated once a year, but basically provides information on booking an appointment to tour, have a guided tour, events once we're allowed to start hosting those again, projects that we're working on, so whether it be the roof or the doors, the second forge, and then also, oh goodness, yeah, those are the 3 main ones along with the capital projects.
All right, thank you for that. And we, anyone who can volunteer is to email, did you say it was Kate directly?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Any other concerns or questions? Committee? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mandy. We will go into the financial reports, financial summary for Arthur and Mount Forest, and I'll turn it over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Afternoon, everybody. This is a tough one to look at because of the pandemic. As you guys are aware, as of March 15th, we closed down, shut our doors. All sports and all hall bookings were canceled. All summer sports are on hold. We've canceled day camp. We've canceled the pool programs. We've laid off all our part-time staff. We've maintained our buildings with 2 full-time employees at both facilities. We've been able to do a lot of the little jobs that generally most years we can't do. And by driving around, taking a look at our facilities, you'll be able to see that. Our parks, our playgrounds, our trails are all in really good shape this year. Our staff have been ready for new developments from public health, for closing facilities or for opening things like the assessment center and the splash pad. And we're preparing for the uncertainty of opening our inside facilities. There'll be more expenses involved when we go to do that with disinfecting, reduced number of people in the building. These reports, when you get down and look at it, our lost revenue from March 15th to June 30th, we've lost about $157,000 in revenue. We've been able to reduce some of those through operating expenses, approximately $70,000. That's mostly through the part-time staff wages.
Wow.
That's it. Any questions?
How do we recoup it?
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was some way to know. This is a weird year, and it's only going to get weirder as we go along.
Yeah, and I have to commend your staff, Tom. The whole lot of you there have been in. I've been in Mount Forest and in Arthur, and saw some of the office staff on running a rake or running a lawnmower. So it's good to see the work is being shared and get some of the office staff out on the in the field, so to speak. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Tom, is there any plan to open the pool?
No, we've already discussed that. That's gone to council. Preparation for that takes 3 to 4 weeks. If we were to start now, we would be the end of July, 1st of August. We would only run a month. And
to shed a little bit of light on that at council, Deputy Mayor, it was kind of an interesting conversation because it was like, well, how can we open the splash pads but not open the pools? And the deal was that the splash pad water in both towns is not refreshed or recharged, it goes straight down the drain. And so that's the one real big thing because we can't use the pool. That's one of the big reasons for not using the pool and opening it. So go
But
ahead,
as
Tom.
I understand it, and I don't want to get it, I'm no expert from public health here, but the virus doesn't live in the water.
No, if I can answer that, the virus doesn't live in the water, but the change houses are a big problem as you get people traveling through them. That's that with the slides, climbing the ladders, that's where you're going to get the contact points.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Brian. Any questions or concerns with the, well, I mean, I'm sure there's concerns with the financial update. It's kind of out of our hands, and it's out of our hands for the foreseeable future as well. But any questions or concerns from the committee? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Yake.
No, I mean, sure, we're all concerned, but again, just a thanks to Tom and his team for you know, holding things together here under some dire circumstances. So just keep up the good work, Tom. I see your guys out there on a daily basis, so it's good to see. So just you know, keep up the good work.
Thank you, and thank you guys for your praise.
Thanks, Tom. All right, on to the next part of our agenda between Tom and Mandy is report RPL 2020-009, and it's regarding the capital project update. So I will turn it over to you and Mandy.
And with this one, you can see the numbers. There's projects we've put on hold just because of the pandemic. We're probably in a wait and see pattern on a lot of that stuff. Some things, the boardroom tables and chairs, again, you guys got to get in. We got to have a meeting to show them off. Very nice. You'll see the ball diamond fence capping as you drive around the town. You can see that. It's nice bright yellow now.
Yep.
Looks nice against the green backdrops. Ball diamond light timers, you guys are never going to see them. It's in a building at the Optimus Diamond, but it helps to reduce staffing. Few of the other projects, and Mandy can speak to some of them, we've just paused because we don't know where to go with money. It's kind of been directed that way to us, so we'll wait and see. And some we may push off till next year.
All right, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Mandy.
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair McCabe. I'd just like to, in particular, direct your attention to number 5 on the table there, the Damascus Community Center furnace. So funds were allocated for that to replace the new propane furnace at the Damascus Hall. And fortunately, Chalmers Fuels came forward and generously donated a new propane furnace for the Damascus Hall. The committee did come forward and request a purchase and installation of a new heater for their kitchen. And because there was no cost associated with the furnace replacement, staff are hoping to use those dollars that were allocated for the furnace replacement to replace the kitchen heater, which would be about $1,435 plus HST, with an additional $300 for the installation.
All right, I think that kind of makes sense. And will the remaining money that we had allocated for them, would that be held?
Sorry, how do you mean?
So we had, was it 5,500 we had allocated? So I guess maybe Mike or one of you can answer. So the remaining amount of that 5,500, that'll be just in their bank account or in our budget waiting for them to use, or?
There was that $170,000 deficit. Probably that's where some of it could be used.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think the remaining money from capital projects finance just looks at probably putting it into a more general township reserve at the end of the year. But yeah, there certainly will be money left over from this, but it would be, yeah, I think from the Damascus Hall Committee standpoint, and it would be a good news story to endorse the kitchen heater.
Okay, thank you. This is kind of an aside, I suppose. Has there been a like a tweet or Facebook update or Instagram update in thanking Chalmers for their donation, or do we write a letter to them thanking them, or what's the proper procedure for that? Or does it come from Damascus themselves? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I'm just speaking off the cuff, but a letter probably is extremely appropriate. I don't know what I think about the idea of tweeting it. I'd have to, if Karen was still on the line, she might have an opinion about that. Anyway, it's very generous what they have done. And I think they've done the same thing for the Lions Blacksmith Shop. Yeah, but probably a letter of thanks is very appropriate.
Okay, if that can be a direction to staff. Did we send one out to them on when they did the Lions Blacksmith Shop? I can't remember.
I think they're kind of done almost simultaneously, right, Mandy?
I believe the Lions Blacksmith Shop has been completed. The one in Damascus has not been completed yet, but I'll circle back with both of those committees to find out if they have also sent one, and if not, then we can do one together.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Like once the Damascus one is done, if we can send out a letter thanking them for both of the donations for those locations, I think that, like you say, is appropriate. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mandy, this might seem a strange question, but how do you put a new furnace into a facility and then need a heater for the kitchen? Like, I'm not familiar with the hall, but can you help me with a little bit with that one, please?
I can try my best here.
All I ask, do your best.
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe. My understanding is just the way that the piping is set up underneath it's an old schoolhouse. So my understanding is it's just the way that the vents are installed underneath the facility.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the having attended a few things back in Damascus when I was a lot younger, the kitchen can be pretty cold. Go ahead, Tom.
That, just to help Mandy out here, she's right, it's an old schoolhouse, but they attached the kitchen and it was never attached to the furnace. So it just has a heater in the back room.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
That's what it was.
Any other questions or concerns for Mandy or Tom?
No.
So I have RPL 2020-009 capital project update. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that, please?
I'll move that.
Moved by Brian and seconded by Dan. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you very much. On to RPL, excuse me, 2020-012 regarding the trails. And that's over to you, Matthew.
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe. We do have money in the budget as it relates to trails. One thing that came out of 2019 is we had a bridge inspection of the pedestrian bridge in Mount Forest, and I think staff wanted to have a conversation with committee as it relates to maybe spending some of the money that was allotted in the 2020 capital budget to make improvements to that pedestrian bridge. So certainly open to having a chat or answering some questions as it relates to that.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. I had a chance to go up and see the bridge the other day, and it is in need of some repair work right away. There's one section of it that just has very loose 2x4s with a wide opening that a small child could easily fall through. So if we want to keep it open, which I think we do, I think it's probably well used. From what I know, attention to some parts, maybe perhaps not all of it, is necessary. I know that's a great big number to replace a walking bridge. I think we have to piece this off in small chunks, of course, not in one foul swoop, but happy to hear any questions or concerns regarding this report, and especially just on the walking trail bridge in Mount Forest. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, it's good to see the report because I don't think, I certainly wasn't aware of the current condition of it. So it did bring to light some, certainly the issues that are happening with it. So, but we do need to try to come up with a plan, I think, upgrade it or maintain it in a way going forward here. So, but it was, the report was very good and very interesting to see what was going on there.
Sorry, I point to you again. Go ahead, Brian. So you're on my left-hand screen. So yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at the report, I'm seeing that there is quite a number of deficiencies. From a liability standpoint, now that the report has been presented to a committee of council, I'm thinking that things need to be repaired sooner rather than later, or we close the bridge, right? Or am I wrong?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe. Yeah, I think there's, like on the roadside, we go through an OSAM report every 2 years, and ultimately there's bridges that are better than others. Yeah, there's some need for some spend on this bridge, certainly. I think this was the first time that we had kind of a structural inspection of this bridge. So in that regard, we're better knowing where we're at than not knowing where we're at. Yeah, and it's public information, whether I guess staff is holding it or it's going through committee. We're not trying to hide anything. And yeah, certainly though, I think as Chair McCabe has alluded to, there's some things that need to be done in the more immediate future. I think that bridge over the years suffers sometimes from vandalism, as far as I know. There's been, fires and things like that people light on it. But yeah, we wanted to just have this conversation to get endorsement, because the money that was allocated in the capital budget was more related to trails than specifically this pedestrian bridge. But I guess with the opportunity to have some time to think about it, recreation staff thinks it's probably where we should be spending money, to your point, Member Milne.
So Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, on the rest of the trails in Wellington North, all the walking bridges, is it a 2 or is it a 5-year review that they have to go under?
Like I would suggest walking bridges in Wellington North. I'm not aware of any stipulation as far as frequency of structural inspection. I know the West Luther Trail, when it was established, we had engineer involvement as far as what was done from a construction standpoint. But I don't think there's a hard, fast regulation like there is as it relates to roads. And okay. Tom, if I have it wrong, Tom, you can correct me.
No, I've never seen any reports on any of our bridges, as long as I've been with the township.
Okay, sorry, I must have been just, like as you said, thinking about the roads. So that's a big chunk, $1 million. What, without diving too deeply into it, what's the priority sequence? Do you have that, an idea of that, Tom or Matt? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, Chair McCabe. I would, yeah, I think recreation could very easily get a quote to repair that bridge, and as long as it's within budget, proceed with it. And to your other point, I think in the future, from an operating standpoint, recreation can give some consideration to doing evaluations on bridges going forward. The evaluation we did in 2019 for this bridge, I want to say, was in the magnitude of about $1,000. But I know from the recreation team standpoint, we feel a lot more comfortable now that structurally there's not anything, yeah, not anything dire, but to your point, and to the report's point, there's issues with it that need to be resolved, which isn't any different than on the road side of the fence. There's issues that are identified, through that process. On a roadside, it's nice because we have things like load limits and stuff like that allow us to maybe better understand sort of what some of those issues are and how the engineers assess those issues. On a pedestrian bridge, there's probably not going to be a load limit because we're not going to be reaching those types of masses. But I think the pedestrian bridge in Mount Forest, recreation team could very easily get a quote to try to resolve some of those, more immediate issues. But we do have a good structure there as far as the report it didn't say we need to replace the structure. It just said there's some significant repairs that need to happen.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think I was going to suggest if we put money into it, we probably better kind of maintain it or at least have a look at it so it doesn't get into this kind of a situation where all of a sudden it's $1 million touch, or could be $1 million touch, when we can do kind of some of the repairs as it comes along and as it goes. All right, thank you for that. Any questions or concerns with the report? I've got one quick question. I was talking to my mom about this bridge. How long has that bridge been across the Saugeen?
I'm going to defer to Tom.
Older than Matt, I know that.
It's been there since I was a kid. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Looks like it needs some maintenance.
That's a long time.
You're not far off that, Dan, so.
All right, thank you very much for that report, Matt. And I have a recommendation that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee received for information report RPL 2020-021, being a report on the trails in Wellington North. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Dan, seconded by Mayor or Deputy Mayor Milne. All in favor?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, on to RPL 2020-010, Con Playground. Looks like Matt and Mandy are going to have a crack at this one as well.
Through you, Chair McCabe, if I could, I would defer this to Mandy for the starting comment. If that doesn't make me too much a jerk, Mandy.
Go ahead, Mandy.
Thank you, Matt. So the intent of the report is to provide committee with an update on the Con Community Playground and Park. So community playgrounds offer many benefits. They go far beyond aesthetics and giving kids something fun to do. They're the heart of a community and serve as a gathering space. As children are constantly learning through play, community playgrounds provide children with the opportunity to practice skills, including social, emotional, cognitive, and physical. So the Con Community Playground currently includes 3 swings, 1 infant or toddler swing, 3 youth and adult swings. It has a crawl-through tunnel, a slide, a rocking horse, climbing bars, and a whirler. In addition, the property includes a small pavilion, a baseball diamond, and a large fully enclosed pavilion. The playground area and baseball diamond are in need of some investment moving forward. The current annual budget for the Con Playground is approximately $1,500, and that's for cleaning, maintenance, and supplies, which is $900, utilities $400, and insurance $254. Utilizing the maintenance budget, staff plan to address some of the concerns at the playground, which include the replacement or resetting of the slide, removing and replacing the rocking horse, possibly, and adding additional sand surfacing. And then upon review of the baseball diamond, staff see 2 options moving forward for this green space. Option 1 would be remove some of the existing stone from the infield of the baseball diamond and replace it with new stone or stone dust / sand mixture. The existing infield is heavy with weeds and grass, making play on it difficult, and this will revitalize the space. In addition, the bleacher will need to be moved from its existing location, and some of the boards will need to be replaced. Option 2 would be to remove the baseball diamond completely and replace it with a soccer field. This reduced use of the diamond over the years has increased the maintenance required, and currently the roads division supports the recreation division with the lawn maintenance at the park.
All right, thank you for that, Mandy. I don't know if the rest of the committee has had a chance to use the, well, I guess you haven't been able to use the facilities up there since COVID hit, but if you've gone up and had a look at it, the slide has quite a tilt on it, and if it was open, the liability, I think, of someone getting hurt on that could be huge. And yeah, the ball diamond, it has, well, yeah, it's just grown over. I don't think it's great to play on grass, but I can see a kind of a benefit of once COVID hopefully passes soon, and its proximity, the con playground to Misty Mount or Misty Meadows, I think is kind of a nice, I guess, a nice pairing, I suppose. But is there any questions from the committee regarding the con playground with regard to option 1 or option 2? And if so, that would have to be a direction to staff, but that would involve some financial decisions.
I would suggest staying with option 1, leave the ball diamond there. I know there was a few years ago, well, several years ago, there was a big push on with soccer. And I mean, it's a great sport too, but I think in the last recent number of years, there's been a resurgence of baseball. And I think it would be a little behind the curve to remove the ball diamond now and go back to a soccer field. I think it would be better to stay with the ball diamond the way it is.
All right, thank you for that. Dan, you had your hand up as well.
Just, I guess, in regards to the playground equipment, is this something that, like, is it just the slide that's in terrible shape, or are we looking at the rest of the playground equipment? I mean, it can get quite expensive to replace that type of equipment. Obviously, we wouldn't do it this year. So are we looking at the whole playground system there, or just the replacement of or resetting of the slide, I think it says?
Go ahead, Mandy.
Back in November, we presented a report, kind of all-encompassing, a playground replacement program report. And in that report, we went through each of the playgrounds in Wellington North. What we had associated with the con playground was $48,000. And that was $10,000 for drainage and fill, $18,000 for accessible surfacing, and $20,000 for new equipment. Once we start replacing the equipment, we're going to have to address the accessibility issues. So if at this time, all we were to do was just reset that slide and remove potentially that rocking horse, we should be able to just address the surfacing concerns through rototilling and the addition of more sand.
So I have a question regarding that. Is and Matt, is this something that our employees can do, is to reset that swing, or like, can we do that internally? And then my second part of the question is probably for either of you. That rocking horse, is that even kind of legal, or is it? Because I know I've been on rocking horses like that when I was quite young, and I don't know if they've changed the standards anymore, or even if you're allowed to put something like that up in a playground again. So go ahead, Matt.
Yep. Through you, Chair McCabe. I think the resetting, I'm not really sure if there's I'm assuming there's a concrete base for that slide, because earlier in the week, I went to the top, and I'm not the smallest guy in the world, and tried to shake it, and it doesn't shake. So I'm assuming there's concrete under it. I think it's something that potentially we could do internally. Yeah, we could try to do that internally. And as it relates to the rocking horse, I'm assuming that when that rocking horse was installed, it was consistent with, you know, what would have been allowed in that day. And typically those kinds of things are grandfathered as far as,
Okay.
you know, you're not forced to remove it. You just wouldn't be allowed to install a new one similar to that. And I don't know if Tom or Mandy, you have additional comments on either of those items, but those would be my comments, Chair McCabe.
Thank you. Mike, what do you think about sending some employees up there to straighten out a slide? I can almost see you rolling your eyes, but I thought I'd better ask.
No, I'm not rolling my eyes. I guess, and I don't want to be the cold water guy all the time, but I don't have a lot of faith in that spending a lot of money on playgrounds when playgrounds we're being told are closed. And I know we're trying to anticipate going forward, and I appreciate that that's where the committee is looking, and that's positive. I can be the pessimist in the group. I'm okay with that. Yeah, there wasn't a budget associated with this, I don't think, not that I'm aware of from the capital side of things. And we are struggling on the recreation side of things too. So I struggle a little bit with us continuing to spend money on recreation, knowing our revenues are taking a kicking throughout and probably will for the balance of this year anyways. But in terms of staff looking at and making efforts to make best do with what we have, I support that, yes.
Okay, great. Because I'd hate, my kind of thinking is if we sit and do nothing and we know that the slide's on a quite an angle and someone does go and use it and gets hurt on municipal ground, where does that leave us?
We were worried about liability, Steve. We'd never open a playground again.
I was afraid of that.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, no, that's good. All righty.
You wouldn't have any roads or an arena or anything else, that's for sure.
That's fair.
So if I might, Mr. Chair, I'll ask the question that I'm sure Dan wants to ask, but he doesn't want to really do it. If we got a maintenance program every year for a lot of these parks, how did the slide get in this condition in the first place? How many years has it been let go?
Matt?
Yeah, I'm through you, Chair McCabe. I'm assuming it's just frost heave over the years. It does not move. Like I say, I went to the top of it and I tried to intentionally rock it. It's solid. In my opinion, it's solid, but it's heaved over the years, and potentially the concrete base that was installed wasn't below the frost line, or, you know, over the years, the frost line in certain winters has went deeper that has resulted in it shifting. But yeah, it's not an easy fix though either, as it relates to, it would literally be pulling it out, I think, and trying to reset it. And I'm not even sure if it's a commercial grade slide that's in there. Yeah, so there's issues with it, but I think it's, you know, it's just frost heave. It's not a function of anyone not doing their maintenance or operation. It's just, yeah, over the years it's heaved, and it's not an easy fix.
With Mike's words echoing in my head, so do we, if we, obviously the recommendation is just to receive this for information, but is there any direction to staff that we need to do to try to, I guess, right the slide, or do we leave it just because it's closed and wait until maybe next year? Because as Mike said, we're probably not going to open them for the rest of this year at all. And do we spend money on something that we're not going to use this year, or do we wait until next year to do it? Dan?
I'm okay with receiving the report. Not overly responsive to putting a whole lot of money into this right at this point in time. I think you've said it very clearly, Steve, with the fact that you know, these parks are closed. Financial situation in recreation at the moment isn't good, and is going to not be good probably for the next little while. So I think we just need to continue to monitor what's going on here. If that is you know, becomes an issue, or when the parks do reopen, maybe we revisit it, and that's probably next year. But I think putting a whole lot of money, any money, into it this year is, in my opinion, out of the question.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Brian, did you have your hand up?
Well, I mean, I can appreciate Dan and Mike's point, but I guess I'll suggest that maybe this is the opportune time to be doing that kind of work when the playgrounds are closed, so that they're ready to go when the parks do open. Because I mean, it doesn't sound to me from staff, from Matt, that it's a safety issue necessarily, like not an urgent one at least. It's more of a cosmetic thing.
Mhm.
But having said that, like I said, maybe now's the time to be doing that work when you've got no kids running around in these playgrounds. But that's just my thought.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, if township staff do try to reset it, there's significant risk that, you know, we'll wreck the slide doing it. We're not playground people. I think it would be the roads department who would be supporting in that activity. But, you know, a reality is if we do try to do it internally, there's risk associated with that activity. That, yeah, there might not be a slide there in the future too. I just wanted to throw that out there because, yeah, we would exercise best efforts to make sure we're doing our best job, but there is that risk too, that if we go to do that activity there, that yeah, it doesn't end well.
Right. What do you think about that, member Yake, about do we do some work on it now while no one's on it, or are you still, like, I'm of the mind that maybe we just sit and wait, because I know even if it comes up to next spring, say May, that oh yeah, the public spaces are going to be open, maybe we do it then. But what's your thought on that, Dan?
Just with all due respect to Member Milne,
That'll be the first today.
It's like, you know, it's like paving a closed road, right? I mean, it's just, I don't think this is the time to do it. The perception would not be that good, I don't think, by doing some of this work and still keeping the facility closed. You know, timing might be appropriate, but from a cost perspective and time, staff issue, I think it's we wait and see what happens next year.
Yeah, I think it's hard to throw money at something that's bleeding money already. So, all right. Well, I have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I won't comment.
Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I won't comment on the perception of anything in Wellington North.
It's tough.
Thank you for that.
Tough to do, isn't it, Mr. Milne?
All right, we have RPL 2020-010, the common playground recommendation in front of us. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor that we receive this for information?
Yep.
Thank you. And that'll take us to RPL 2020-011 COVID-19 update. And Matthew, you have your name behind this one, so go ahead.
Yep. Thank you, Chair McCabe. I think the report largely speaks for itself. The spring and early summer have been a dynamic environment as it relates to the recreation. Lots of thanks and appreciation to Tom and Mandy and their teams as it relates to, you know, what they've been doing. For Tom's team, his team has had a COVID center in the Mount Forest facility, which is a great benefit to the community, but also, you know, a challenge that a year ago probably we couldn't have even imagined. And Mandy's team, as it relates to the bookings and cancellations and just, yeah, all of the conversation that has happened, or that has needed to happen as it relates to bookings and trying to manage an environment that seems to be at times changing daily. So yeah, happy to take questions as it relates to the report, but we just wanted to put in a report as it relates to, yeah, COVID specifically, because that's the buzzword these days, and certainly has, yeah, we haven't lost focus on that. It's an everyday thing, and it's still an evolving situation. So happy to take questions.
Dan, did I see your hand up?
No, I was just looking at the report.
I would commend all of staff, not only just the rec staff, but all the staff. But with regards to this report, I think even putting up the hand sanitizers in locations where people are gathering, like the pavilions and the splash parks, I think is good to keep up on that. And I think we've done a great job. This is a kind of a moving target, COVID-19. So how to adjust and gear up or gear down for it is, like you say, Matt, kind of a daily occurrence. So I believe that starts at the top. So thank you, and thank Mike for leadership through all of this, not just with the rec, but with the entire township staff for sure. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? All right, I have a recommendation that the Rec and Parks Leisure Committee receive for information report RPL 2020-011, being a report on COVID-19. I'm going to suggest, Brian, that you move that, and Dan, you second that?
Yep.
All in favor?
Yep.
Thank you very much. I will start with our good neighbor to the north, Deputy Milne. Do you have any new business or any roundtable discussion?
I do not, although I just, as the others have indicated, I want to commend your township staff for the work they're doing, trying to keep everybody safe and healthy and in mind as well. So congratulations, everybody, for a job well done.
Thank you for that. Councilor Yake?
No, I'm good. I'm good, Steve. Thanks.
All right, I don't have any new business. Mike or Matt or Tom or Mandy, any new business or roundtable discussion? Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think from a facility standpoint, you know, we're in a position now over the next month where if people want to book our facilities for less than 10 people and respecting what the public health and the province is saying, you know, we're open to those conversations. I think with the assessment center in Mount Forest, that remains a bit of a challenge for that facility, but again, probably a greater benefit to the community. We had talked at one point in time the idea of July 17th trying to have an opening as it relates to facilities. I think we're still monitoring, you know, who's interested in booking, and we're open to the idea of facility rentals that are consistent with the rules of the day. And then the last point I wanted to make is, it might have been about a month ago now, but we had the rec management team had a meeting with the rec team members, and the comment just was to say thanks to folks like yourself that are on the committee as it relates to, you know, keeping them employed over the last 3 or 4 months. As Tom had mentioned earlier, it's been an opportunity for us to do some things that maybe we just haven't got around to doing. I think Tom and his team have kept the facilities to a level that we can open them when we need to. But certainly the team had asked that I just express thanks to folks like yourself that are decision makers for keeping them employed during a very difficult situation. So I just wanted to circle around and make those comments so for committee's awareness.
Thank you for that, Matt. I think it's in our best interest to keep the boat going forward and floating at the same time. And it goes back to your staff. And again, like I said, to all staff through all of this. It's been tough going, and I'm glad that we have a staff that we do have, especially in rec, that can keep our facilities at the ready as well. So thank you as well. Mike, it looked like you might want to chime in.
I just wanted to address with the committee around the assessment center piece itself. I'm in fairly regular conversations with both Steve Street, CEO of the North Wellington Healthcare, as well as the family health team. Those are the groups that are kind of running the assessment center. Conversations have really been about, yeah, we certainly want to support them and have throughout, and they've been grateful for that. It hasn't been a revenue generating opportunity. That's not something that we looked at. That was direction that we received from our council. And I've also recognized that there is, and they know this as well, that the idea of opening up our rec facility, specifically the sports complex, will have a haze over it, let's say, if the assessment center is still there. So they're well aware of my concerns around that. And they are making provisions now to look at other locations if assessment and testing has to continue. My conversations with public health specifically suggest that testing will probably remain as long as there's no vaccine. So we could be years into testing and the requirements around testing. So we certainly want to afford that opportunity within our community, within Wellington North and the northern part of the community, but they recognize that it may not be the best location for that length of period to be at the Mount Forest Sports Complex. So those conversations are happening, and I think you can anticipate as a committee that there will be a move sooner than later as it relates to the assessment center.
Thanks, Mike. And I think actually having that our facility open for the testing, I think has been a huge benefit, not only just for our community, but the surrounding communities as well. And whether it stays open at that location and not generate money, I think you can't put a price on health and people's access to knowing what's going on. So I appreciate that, and thank you. And you'll obviously keep us informed on what their decisions are going forward, and however long this actually we're saddled with this. So thanks very much. All right, I don't have any new business. Want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you for the reports. I have a recommendation that the Township of Wellington North Recreation Parks and Leisure Committee meeting of July 7th, 2020 be adjourned at 2:30. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move.
Thank you, Dan, and
I'll second.
thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.
Stay cool and stay hydrated. And thanks very much for your time this afternoon.
And wash your hands.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.